I really need some advice on how to handle this because I feel like it's getting worse. My husband and I have been married for 9 years, together for 16. Like every couple, we have had our ups and downs. But for the most part, our arguments have been over significant things. He's an amazing man and has always treated his family well. Our son is 14 years old and entered high school last September. My husband always had high expectations that my son should join multiple sports teams and be an athlete, get a scholarship, maybe go pro, etc., etc. Thing is, our son never joined any sports teams and has no intention of ever joining teams. He spends most of his time drawing and writing stories. He said he wants to work in animation in the future. I fully support whatever desires he has and always have. My husband, on the other hand, thought it was just a phase, and when he entered high school, he should be more into sports. My son just really doesn't like sports and told his father that he wouldn't be joining a team. Well, his father freaked out and threatened to disown him if he didn't join a team come the next semester, winter. Now he's threatening to break his PlayStation and take away all his art supplies. I think this is getting way out of hand. I've tried talking to my husband, but he kept saying that I should be standing by his decision. Please help me. What can I say to him so he might listen to reason? I don't think it's fair to force our son into something he isn't even going to enjoy. Threaten to disown your husband if he doesn't do art. I'm kidding, sort of. Sounds like the dude needs counseling so he can stop trying to live vicariously through his son. Your son's interests are unlikely to drastically change and your husband is going to push him, and probably you, away if he keeps threatening to disown his kid over something so inconsequential. I would probably be asking him, "Who are you, and what did you do with my husband?" at this point. Edit. I never said I was going to side with my husband. In fact, I said I don't agree with him at all. I would never let anyone force my child into something they didn't want to do. The second thing is, no, my son is not obese, chubby. He doesn't enjoy sports, but he loves other types of activities like hiking and biking and things like that. I think what he doesn't like about sports is the competitiveness of them. I'm going to make it a point tomorrow to talk to him about why he is pushing our son to join a sports team like one person suggested. Just really sit down and talk to him about all this and where it is coming from. Update. I decided to wait until after the holidays to talk to my husband, and 2 nights ago, we sat down together and I basically told him that his behavior towards our son and his feelings, goals in life was really inappropriate and frankly, a huge overreaction. I asked him why he felt the need to push our son into something he obviously wasn't going to enjoy. At first, he was kind of resisting talking to me about it, trying to change the subject or downplay his actions, saying it wasn't that bad. Unfortunately, I couldn't help it, and I started crying, because I was starting to feel like he really didn't care about working with me and communicating, and I guess it was a shock to him. He kind of told me what some of you have suspected, and that he was disappointed that growing up he never got into sports, and felt like sports probably could have helped him at a young age, because it was socially awkward, and still is as an adult, and his father never really instilled good habits in him. But he didn't start playing when he was younger because he just told himself he'd never be good anyways, and what was the point of trying, and that he had no one to encourage him to do it. He said he felt like our son is missing out on a lot of opportunities, and he also said he sometimes feels like he's failed our son by not encouraging him when he was younger to join sports because he thought maybe on his own our son would get involved with a sports team. He never really admitted that what he said was wrong, so maybe he still feels his words were justified and he was just trying to give our son some encouragement. Through threats? I suggested that maybe we should talk to someone about our issues and our communication issues, and he didn't seem interested in it. I guess he doesn't see that we have a problem, or that it's something we could fix ourselves. I'm going to keep an eye on his temperament to see if these irrational outbursts become more frequent. I told him that just because our son isn't interested in sports doesn't mean he won't grow up to be a good person, and there are other ways to parent. I asked that he talk with our son to find out more about our son's interests, because he admitted he doesn't really know what his interests are about. Right now they're watching hockey on the TV, and he's showing his dad some of his drawings. I don't think it's a perfect happy ending, because I have a feeling that my husband's feelings about wanting him to join a sport team will always be there, even if he doesn't express it, and it might come to head again. I've told my sister everything, so if it does become an issue, I'm going to contact my sister and put some space between my husband and myself and our son, if need be, and we will go stay with her. If it happens, I will deal with that when it comes to it, I guess. My mom wrote a book about parenting when I was about 17, with some personal narratives and advice in it. Think Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother type of stuff. Today I went to look at its Amazon reviews out of curiosity, and found a review under my name from 2014. Praised the book and the views expressed within it. I did not write this review. My mother and I have had an incredibly fraught relationship since I was a teenager, and several of the parenting techniques that this book and the review praise are part of the reason that we barely talk, including her obsession with controlling my weight, and gender presentation. I know this is a fake review written by her, because while it's only under a first name, it's my dead name. I'm trans. This name is extremely uncommon, and I have never met or heard of another person who shares the same name with the same spelling. The username for the review is name_1, and that user has no other reviews. The review is basically just the blurb on the back of the book, with some compliments thrown in. It's a very transparently written by the author review. The review was posted within 3 days of the book being listed on Amazon. I feel extremely uncomfortable with this review remaining up, and I'm insulted by the fact that she thought it was appropriate to just use my name to review a book, praising her for her behaviors. But I know that if I bring it up to my mother, it will cause a massive fight, as she'll immediately ask me if I really hated her parenting style that much, and I don't want to cause more tension than we already have. I think I might be the a-hole because the review was from 2014, and it isn't hurting anybody. I still went by my dead name back then, and I don't want to start a huge fight over something so insignificant. Not the a-hole. Live chat Amazon and ask them to remove it. Not the a-hole. But before opening a can of worms with her, maybe try reaching out to Amazon directly. That might take care of it. Or fight fire with fire and do your own review under some other name. I learned the hard way this book is not the way to go. I followed it to the letter, and I have such a terrible relationship with my now older child. Thankfully, she agreed to counseling with me, and I am finding where I went wrong was believing in this author. Just pass right over this one. Not serious. Hope to put a smile on your face. Good luck. This one. Leave your own review to set the record straight. Guys, I just need some advice. I don't have anyone in real life. Not a single friend or family nearby, as we recently moved to Los Angeles. I've been engaged for the past 2 years to a man I truly love. We had the most wonderful relationship. As cliché as it sounds, he was my best friend and fiancé. I've been in several serious relationships before, but never like this. I never clicked with anyone like him. He showed me unconditional love, rooted for me through thick and thin, and didn't leave when things got tough. Then, last June, things went downhill. I've always been a pretty happy, positive person. However, last year I began to get terrible mood swings. I was always exhausted, unmotivated. It got to the point I could no longer work. I saw multiple doctors. No one could figure out what it was. This continued for 9 months. I began getting terrible pain and heavy bleeding during my periods. My doctor said it was an ovarian cyst, heavy periods, and they usually resolve on their own. During this time, the past year, I have been a nightmare to deal with. My personality has changed. I try so hard to snap out of it, but can't. I saw a counselor, was put on antidepressants, behavior modification. I worked to actively change things, but I truly cannot explain how hard it was for both of us. My fiancé has stayed with me through this. I've said to him multiple times he should leave because he doesn't deserve to be around someone like me. He always says no, that's not what true love is. I'll stick with you, and we'll get your health figured out and start living normally again, because I love you. Edit. I've been asked several times to provide more information as to how I changed. As I said, there were days I couldn't get out of bed and work. I didn't want to leave the house. He would grab his food in the morning and evening and was sick of always being on the go. It wasn't fair to him. I wasn't emotionally, physically by any means, but I was exhausting to him. I sucked, and that's not okay, especially when you're in a partnership. I had become a crappy partner, not fair to him. Fast forward to this Saturday. My fiancé has an 8-year-old son he doesn't spend a lot of extended time with. It was an accidental pregnancy with his ex. He didn't want to be a father, but over the past year has stepped up more and spends about 1 day a week with him alone, and 1 day a week with him and I. I'm very close with his son. I don't want to overstep my boundaries. He needs to be the #1 priority in my fiancé's life, and it makes me happy the more effort to be a parent is of late, so I always try to keep back and never interfere with their time. He has made everyone really happy, and he's now stepping up to the plate more. 2 days prior, he made plans for the weekend to a friend's house on the beach in Santa Barbara to have some father-son time. The day before he left, I got my period and was bleeding profusely. I became dizzy and in front of my fiancé, passed out. I thought it was just a bad period, so I didn't go to the hospital. I've been to the ER 3 times in the past 3 months for very similar issues, and each time was told it was a heavy period and there wasn't really anything they could do. I woke up Saturday morning and began to have the pain and dizzy spells again. I was petrified to stay home alone. I asked my fiancé if I could go with them for the weekend. I would not spend time with them, as it was their weekend. I would stay in the spare bedroom and try to get some work done. The only reason I asked this, which I explained, was because I was scared to be alone because of how sick I was feeling. My fiancé absolutely flipped out. He said he had planned this weekend, promised his son it was just the 2 of them, and that I was being selfish. I tried to explain to him I was in no way trying to impede on their weekend, that I was truly scared. My fiancé continued to flip out and left. He called me a couple of times, but I wouldn't answer. I was so upset. His final voicemail said, "That's it, we're done. I can't live like this anymore. I've done so much for you, and you don't appreciate me. I have to throw in the towel. I'm sorry." A couple hours later, I began feeling sick again and knew I was going to pass out. I called 911. After going to the hospital, having a million tests and an MRI done, the doctor brought in a specialist who was positive I have endometriosis. I need to get lapro surgery done next week to confirm. But she said she could see it on the scan, which a lot of times you can't. That's how severe my case is. The doctor said this makes a lot of sense as to why I'm having mood swings, depression, exhaustion, and lack of motivation, as these can all be related to hormones, severe endo. Just to clarify, I'm in no way blaming endo for how I acted. I take full responsibility that while it may have been a root of the depression, it gave me no right to handle it the way I did and put the person I'm supposed to love in a bad position of having to do things for me. During this time, I did not talk to my fiancé. I was in the hospital by myself. I called him when I got home. He did not answer. He did not come home last night, which is when he was supposed to be back. I'm assuming he's staying with his mother. This morning I called again. He didn't answer. I sent him a text and told him about the hospital. I explained what the doctor said and how it's most likely all related and told him about the surgery. He has all his things here. He said on the voicemail from Saturday he would pick them up sometime this week. I asked him to come over today. I said I understand if you do not want to be together anymore, but I'd truly appreciate it if we could quickly speak, as I feel it will bring me closure and help me move on. I let him know how sorry I was for the past year, how terrible I felt, and how much I truly appreciated each and every little thing he has done for me. He has not responded. He has not come by. I'm a mess. I haven't slept at all. I'm getting terrible anxiety attacks. I don't know what to do to try to make this right and better for him. It's just awful timing, as I finally have an answer to a question that caused so much stress, and while I'm hopeful for that, I feel so guilty about how I've treated him, and am disgusted with myself that it took this long to realize it. He didn't deserve this. I'm not sure what I'm asking for. I guess I wanted to get this off my chest. I just don't know what to do, and I don't have anyone to talk to. Update. He's here right now. Called to say he was coming to get his stuff, but when I asked if he wanted to stay over, he said he would like that. We're watching a movie right now, but he's continuing to pack as he's watching it. Update 2. It's now in the morning and things are much better. We're spending the day together. I believe this is salvageable. The diagnosis took a big weight off both of our shoulders. It's time to completely focus on him and his happiness and work to make this better. He's taken a back seat the past 6 months, and it's not going to happen again. It sounds like inviting yourself to tag along on and ruin his beach trip just pushed him beyond the breaking point. People always talk about how wonderful it is when someone is willing to make sacrifices for a partner in their time of need, and how good they are for standing by them. What they don't talk about is how a lot of the time, that partner is at their absolute limit. He was probably hanging on by a thread at this point. I'm sorry to say, fixing your problem now might be too little too late for him. Update 3. I told him about the post and he was very interested to read it. He read every comment. He said he was very impressed by my honesty, and his only complaint was that I was overly critical of myself, and he said to me, if I read this post, I'd assume you were some selfish crazy woman. What you didn't include was that you are the most caring, wonderful woman I've ever met. Even when you were at your worst, the girl I love so much was still there. You do so much for me, and have done so much to help me be a better parent, and are so supportive of my relationship with Jack, his son. That's what you didn't include, and that's why I love you, and I'm willing to work on this. That meant so much to me.